In the vast emptiness of space, where countless stars twinkled like tiny jewels, something unexpected appeared on the radar. It was small, almost too small to notice, and yet it was heading straight toward the galaxy's frontiers. This was an area known to be the edge of known space, where few ships dared to travel. Most of the galaxy's powers had long since ignored this corner of space, dismissing it as a place too remote to matter. But today, something had changed. On the bridge of the Galactic Empire's flagship, a team of officers studied the readings on their monitors. The system was quiet, as it always was out here. The only sound that filled the air was the gentle hum of the ship's engines, a constant reminder of their enormous presence in the universe. "What's that?" Commander Xar, the senior officer, asked casually as his eyes scanned the screen. A small dot appeared, steadily growing closer. Lieutenant Kan, a young officer who had recently joined the fleet, squinted at the screen. "It's just an anomaly, sir," Kan said, his voice full of uncertainty. "Could be an asteroid or a glitch in the system." Xar didn't seem concerned. He chuckled, glancing at Kan. "An anomaly. It's probably just some forgotten piece of space debris. Nothing to worry about. I'm sure it's harmless." Despite his words, Xar still ordered a full analysis of the object. There was always the possibility of something new, something dangerous, though he doubted it. The galaxy's history was full of alien races, but none had been capable of much in these far-off reaches. If anything, this was more likely to be a relic from a long-gone era, a forgotten piece of humanity's past. The officers around him agreed, rolling their eyes at the idea of being disturbed by something so trivial. Xar turned back to the view of the object, which now appeared clearly on their screens. It wasn't an asteroid, and it certainly wasn't a glitch. It was something else, something unfamiliar. A faint signal began to pulse from the object. It was a strange frequency, unlike anything the officers had ever encountered. "Could this be a distress signal?" Lieutenant Kan asked. "Not possible," Xar responded with a wave of his hand. "If this was a distress signal, we would have picked it up long ago. We're way out here, and there's no one in this region of space who could need our help." But the signal kept coming, stronger now. Xar hesitated for a moment, the thrill of curiosity starting to creep in. Still, he waved off the thought. "It's probably a fluke. Nothing to see here." As the object drew closer, something in Kan's gut told him it was more than just a coincidence. It wasn't just some space junk. This was something purposeful, something alive, or at least once alive. The object was now within visual range. And the truth, however unbelievable, was about to be revealed. As the object drew nearer, the crew members of the Galactic Empire's flagship became more intrigued. What had been a tiny dot on their radar was now visible in the vast expanse of space, glowing faintly with a strange otherworldly light. It wasn't an asteroid, and it wasn't a comet. It was something completely different, unlike anything the Empire had encountered before. Commander Xar stood at the front of the bridge, his arms crossed, watching the object intently. "All right, let's get a closer look," he said. His voice was calm, but there was an edge of curiosity now. The object wasn't something he could easily dismiss anymore. Lieutenant Kan adjusted his controls, focusing the ship's sensors on the object. The data came in slowly, each new piece of information more surprising than the last. The object wasn't made of the usual materials found in the galaxy. Its surface appeared smooth, almost metallic, but the structure was unlike anything from known alien races. It had no visible markings or distinguishing features, yet it seemed to hum with energy. "Commander," Kan called out, his voice a mix of awe and confusion. "It's not like anything we've ever seen before. I think it's a ship." Xar raised an eyebrow. "A ship? But from where?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out," Kan said, his fingers flying across the controls. "It's old, very old. There's no sign of any active life forms, but something inside is. Alive, in a way. The ship is still running." Xar turned to the crew. "Could it be human?" An old human ship lost in deep space. The thought was crazy. Humanity had been gone for centuries, their homeworld lost after the war. Most of their ships had long since disintegrated or been destroyed in battles. The idea that an old human vessel might have survived out here, alone and forgotten, seemed impossible. "We're going to board it," Xar said, finally making a decision. "Prepare a team. If it's human, we need to know what happened to them. If it's not, we still need to find out what it is." A team of officers suited up and boarded the small shuttle that would take them to the object. The air was tense as the crew members silently made their preparations. Can couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, that this ship, whatever it was, wasn't just a relic of the past. There was something about it that felt alive. The shuttle approached the object slowly, docking with the ship's hull. Xar and his team climbed out, making their way through the dark corridors of the ancient vessel. The ship's interior was dimly lit, filled with strange symbols and panels that seemed to hum with forgotten energy. As they ventured deeper, they found a room at the heart of the ship, a control room, still operational after all these years. The captain's seat was vacant, but in the center of the room lay a large glowing console. As Can approached, a soft voice filled the room, and the ship seemed to come alive. "Welcome," it said. The crew froze in shock. The ship wasn't just an object, it was alive, and it was talking to them. The crew stood frozen, staring at the glowing console in the center of the control room. The voice, calm and distant, echoed around them. "Welcome." Commander Xar stepped forward, his face serious. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice firm, though there was a hint of uncertainty in his eyes. It was hard to believe what was happening. This ship, this ancient relic, was talking to them, as if it had been waiting for their arrival. For a moment, there was silence. Then the voice responded, "I am the Eclipse. My mission was lost long ago, but I am still here." Xar's confusion deepened. "The Eclipse? What is that? Who are you, and where did you come from?" The voice seemed to pause before answering. "I was created by humanity, an experiment of their highest minds, a warship designed for a war that ended before I could fight. Now, I am alone, abandoned in the void of space." The crew exchanged glances. Humanity. The idea seemed almost impossible. Humanity had vanished long before any of them were born. Yet here it was, proof that they had once been capable of creating such advanced technology. Lieutenant Can couldn't believe his ears. "So, you were made by humans. How did you survive all this time? Why are you still functioning?" The voice, calm as ever, answered, "My design was unlike any other. I was built not only to fight but to endure. My systems are self-repairing, my power infinite. I am the last of my kind, abandoned in the forgotten corners of space." Xar stared at the console, deep in thought. "If you are the last, why didn't anyone find you sooner?" he asked. "Why have you been hidden out here?" The voice paused again. "I was forgotten, a failure in the eyes of my creators. They believed me to be lost. My mission was to protect, but the war ended before I could fulfill it. Left behind, I became a shadow drifting in the emptiness." Xar could feel the weight of the ship's words. It wasn't just a machine. It was a remnant of a lost civilization. A civilization that had once been at the height of its power, only to disappear without a trace. But now, this ship, this Eclipse, had power. Power beyond anything the Empire had ever seen. Suddenly, the room came alive with activity. The control panels flickered and hummed, coming to life in response to the crew's presence. Kane quickly scanned the readings on his device, his eyes widening. "Commander," he said, his voice shaky with disbelief, "this ship, it's not just surviving. It's active. All its weapons are online. And its core energy levels are higher than anything we've ever encountered." The crew's unease grew. This was no ordinary ship. It was a weapon, an ancient weapon, more powerful than anything in the galaxy. The Eclipse was still alive, still functional, and its power was ready to be unleashed. Sar turned to Khan. If this ship is as dangerous as it seems, we need to figure out how to control it, or at least ensure it doesn't turn against us. But deep down, a thought crept into Xar's mind. The Eclipse might have been abandoned, but its creators had designed it for war. And now, the galaxy would learn what it meant to face the power of human ingenuity. As the crew stood in the control room, the weight of what they had just uncovered hung over them. The Eclipse wasn't just any warship. It was a relic of humanity's greatest ambition, an unstoppable force designed for battle. And now it was awake, its power ready to be unleashed once more. Commander Xar paced in front of the glowing console, his mind racing. He could feel the pulse of energy running through the ship's core, the hum of power that vibrated through the metal walls. This ship was more than just a machine. It was a weapon that had been lying dormant for centuries. It was a weapon that had the potential to change the balance of power in the galaxy. Lieutenant Khan, run a full diagnostic on the weapon systems. Xar ordered, his voice sharp. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with. Khan quickly typed commands into the control panel, his eyes flickering over the data. The ship's weapon systems were fully operational, and what he saw made his heart race. The Eclipse wasn't just equipped with standard energy cannons or missile launchers. It had weapons of unimaginable power, weapons that could wipe entire fleets off the map in seconds. This is beyond anything we've ever seen, Khan muttered under his breath. These weapons, they could destroy entire armadas in the blink of an eye. Xar's gaze hardened. Then it's time we tested them. Before Khan could protest, Xar turned to the rest of the crew. Prepare for immediate action. We're not here to admire a ghost ship. We're here to control its power, or destroy it if we must. The crew sprang into action, preparing the ship for combat. Xar's heart pounded as he thought about the decisions ahead. They had no idea who or what might be out there in the galaxy, but the Eclipse wasn't a ship to hide from threats. It was made to eliminate them. Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped, a signal flashing on the main screen. Xar's eyes narrowed as he examined the data. A fleet was approaching, a fleet of the alien empire's most powerful warships. Commander, they're coming straight for us, Khan said, his voice tight with urgency. It looks like they've detected us. They'll be here in moments. Xar's mind raced. He didn't have time to waste. If they could get the Eclipse to fight for them, they would have the upper hand. But if they didn't act fast, they might lose everything. Engage the weapons, Xar ordered without hesitation. We have no choice. The moment the command was given, the Eclipse came alive. The weapon systems powered up, energy building in the ship's core. The glowing lights on the control panel turned from yellow to red, signaling that the ship was ready to fire. Xar watched the view screen intently as the enemy fleet came into range. The first wave of warships loomed large, their weapons charging for an attack. But they never got the chance. In an instant, the Eclipse fired. A brilliant flash of light erupted from the ship, and in the blink of an eye, one of the alien warships was obliterated. The explosion sent shockwaves through space as the enemy fleet staggered back, stunned by the sudden attack. The Eclipse wasn't just a ship, it was a force of nature, and it had just begun its reign of destruction. The shockwave of the explosion rippled through space, a blinding light that left the remaining alien warships reeling. The enemy fleet hesitated, thrown off guard by the sudden, devastating power of the Eclipse. Commander Xar stood at the front of the control room, his eyes fixed on the view screen. He could see the enemy warships maneuvering, regrouping, trying to retaliate. Did we just do that? Lieutenant Khan whispered, still in disbelief. The sheer force of the Eclipse's attack had been unimaginable. One shot, and a massive warship was nothing more than a pile of burning wreckage. Xar's jaw tightened. They won't be caught off guard again. Prepare for the next wave. Despite the initial success, Xar knew this wasn't over. The enemy fleet would regroup, and they would come for the Eclipse with everything they had. He couldn't afford to be complacent. Every decision from this point on would decide the fate of the galaxy. The crews sprang into action, readying themselves for the next move. Kane quickly scanned the enemy fleet's movements on his monitor. They're regrouping. It looks like they're calling in reinforcements, Commander. Sar turned to the weapons console. The Eclipse had fired once with devastating power, but would it hold up against an entire fleet? The next few moments would prove just how dangerous this ship truly was. As the enemy ships reformed into a more coordinated formation, Tar gave the order. Fire again. This time, the Eclipse didn't fire one shot. It fired multiple. Beams of pure energy erupted from its weapon systems, each blast powerful enough to level entire cities. The energy beams ripped through space, slamming into the alien ships with brutal force. One by one, the enemy ships exploded in bright flashes, their once proud forms dissolving into space dust. Tsar's heart raced as he watched the destruction unfold. The Eclipse wasn't just a weapon, it was a destroyer of worlds. But even as the enemy fleet was torn apart, Tsar knew they couldn't stop there. The alien forces weren't finished. They would keep coming. This was just the beginning. A new wave of enemy ships appeared on the radar. They were larger, more advanced, and they came prepared for a fight. The enemy fleet had learned from their losses, and they weren't going to make the same mistake twice. Brace for impact, Qatar ordered. They've got new tactics. We'll need to be faster. The Eclipse shuddered as incoming fire struck its shields, but they held firm. The ship was resilient, stronger than Tsar had expected. But the enemy wasn't going to give up easily. Their ships had advanced weaponry, and they were learning how to counter the Eclipse's attacks. Commander, they're adapting, Khan reported urgently. Their ships are using evasive maneuvers and countermeasures against our weapons. We're going to need to change tactics. Tsar nodded, his mind racing. The Eclipse had already proven its superiority, but it needed more. Activate the secondary weapon systems, and don't stop firing until they're all gone. The ship's weapons hummed louder, as if responding to Tsar's command. The Eclipse wasn't just a symbol of humanity's power. It was a reminder that when it came to war, there was no force more dangerous than a forgotten human creation, powered by pure ingenuity. The onslaught had only just begun. The Eclipse had struck with overwhelming force, obliterating the first wave of enemy warships in a brilliant display of power. But the alien fleet was not easily defeated. The silence of space was shattered once again as the enemy forces regrouped, their ships now more cautious, more coordinated. They had learned from their losses, and they were preparing for a second round. Commander Tsar watched as the radar blinked with new incoming targets. The enemy wasn't retreating. Instead, they had shifted tactics. No longer would they come at the Eclipse in a straight line. This time, they were spreading out, using evasive maneuvers, trying to find weaknesses in the ship's defense systems. They're adapting faster than we thought, Khan said, his voice tense. His hands flew over the controls, trying to keep up with the shifting formations of the enemy ships. Tsar's mind raced. The Eclipse had proven its strength, but now the alien fleet was beginning to use countermeasures, shields, cloaking devices, and advanced evasive techniques that made their ships harder to hit. Tsar could see the frustration on his crew's faces as the enemy continued to evade their fire. "We can't let them outsmart us," Tar muttered. "They're trying to buy time. We need to hit them before they regroup fully." The alien ships, now more spread out, began to fire back with devastating accuracy. Their weapons pounded against the Eclipse's shields, sending shockwaves through the ship's hull. Tsar could feel the vibrations under his feet. Despite the damage, the shields held firm, but for how long? "Shields holding at 70%, Khan reported, his voice tight. "But they're adapting. Their new weapons are hitting harder." Tsar gritted his teeth. "Keep firing. Don't let them get another chance." He knew they were running out of time. The Eclipse had power, but it wasn't invincible. The longer this battle went on, the more likely it was that the alien fleet would find a way to breach the ship's defenses. Suddenly, A new blip appeared on the radar, a massive ship, much larger than anything the alien fleet had sent before. It was fast, almost as fast as the Eclipse, and it was heading straight for them. "What is that?" Khan asked, his voice shaking with both fear and awe. "It's huge." Sar studied the new threat on the screen. The ship was unlike anything he had ever seen. Its shape was angular, with jagged edges that looked designed to cut through the void. And there, on the front of the ship, was a massive cannon, glowing ominously. "It's their flagship," Sar said, his voice grim. "And it's got enough firepower to destroy us if we're not careful." The alien flagship fired a massive blast, aimed directly at the Eclipse. The beam struck the shields with such force that the entire ship rocked violently. The crew struggled to stay on their feet as the ship groaned under the pressure. "We need to stop that ship before it gets another shot off," Tar said urgently. "Khan, target the flagship. Take it down." Khan's fingers flew across the console, locking onto the massive enemy vessel. The Eclipse responded, firing a barrage of energy blasts in return, but the flagship's shields were holding strong. It wasn't enough. Zar's mind raced. They were in a race against time. If they didn't take down the flagship soon, the Eclipse might not survive much longer. The Eclipse shuddered again as the alien flagship fired another enormous blast, its weapon charging up for another strike. Sar could feel the energy from the impact reverberating through the entire ship. The shields were holding, but they wouldn't last much longer under this kind of pressure. "Commander, if we don't take that flagship down now, we won't survive another hit," Khan said, his voice tight with urgency. Sar's eyes darted across the control panel, his mind racing. The alien flagship was too powerful to be taken down with standard weapons. Their usual energy blasts weren't getting through its shields. They needed a new plan, and fast. "All crew, brace yourselves," Sar ordered. "Activate the auxiliary power to the weapons. We need everything the Eclipse has." The crew scrambled, engaging the secondary power systems. The ship hummed with renewed energy as the hidden weapons systems powered up. Sar could feel the tension in the air. They were taking a huge risk. If this didn't work, the Eclipse might be too damaged to fight back. Kane adjusted the targeting system, locking onto the flagship's weak point. "It's a small gap in their shield. If we can hit it directly, we can breach their defenses." Sar nodded, his eyes never leaving the view screen. The flagship loomed large in front of them, its deadly cannon charging up for another shot. Sar knew they had to strike first. There would be no second chances. "On my mark," Sar said, his voice steady. "Ready? Fire." In a flash, the Eclipse unleashed everything it had. The ship's weapon systems fired a massive burst of concentrated energy at the alien flagship's weak point. The blast hit its target dead center, causing a massive explosion as the flagship's shields buckled under the force. Zar's heart pounded as the enemy flagship faltered, its once perfect structure now cracking and crumbling. But the enemy wasn't done. The flagship, despite taking heavy damage, retaliated with a fury. It fired its cannon again, this time aimed directly at the Eclipse. The blast struck the Eclipse's shields with a deafening roar, sending the ship reeling. The force of the impact sent the crew stumbling, and the lights flickered as the shields started to fail. "We're losing power," Khan shouted. "Shields at 30%. If we don't fix this, we won't be able to withstand another hit." Sar gritted his teeth. He couldn't afford to back down now. They were so close. "Khan, reroute all available power to the shields," Sar commanded. "I'll take care of the rest." Kane quickly worked the controls, shifting power to the shields, but it wasn't enough. The flagship fired again. This time, there was no time to brace for impact. The blast slammed into the Eclipse with a sickening crunch. The ship groaned under the force, and for a moment, Sar feared they might not survive. But then, something unexpected happened. The Eclipse powered through the hit. It wasn't just surviving. It was fighting back, refusing to be destroyed. Tsar smiled grimly. We're not finished yet. With a final, concentrated shot, the Eclipse fired again at the alien flagship. This time, the blast pierced through the flagship's defenses completely. The flagship exploded in a massive fireball, its pieces scattering across the void of space. Tsar let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. The flagship was gone. The rest of the enemy fleet had no choice but to retreat, their morale shattered by the destruction of their strongest ship. "We did it," Khan said quietly, his voice filled with awe. Tsar looked at the view screen, his mind still racing from the intensity of the battle. The alien fleet had been defeated, but the war was far from over. The Eclipse had shown them what humanity was capable of, but now they had to ensure it stayed that way. The reckoning had only just begun. The Eclipse floated quietly in the vast emptiness of space, its hull battered and scarred from the battle. The once mighty alien fleet had been shattered, its flagship destroyed in a fiery explosion that left a trail of debris in its wake. The crew of the Eclipse had survived, but the victory had come at a heavy price. Commander Tsar stood in the control room, looking out at the remains of the alien fleet. The view screen displayed the wreckage, pieces of warships drifting through space, their once proud forms now nothing more than smoldering ruins. The battle had been intense, but they had emerged victorious. "We did it," Khan said, his voice filled with awe as he stood beside Tsar. "We actually did it. The fleet is gone." Tsar nodded, but his expression was grim. "Yes, but we've only won a single battle. There's still so much we don't know about the enemy. And we've attracted attention. The galaxy will be watching us now." Kane frowned. "Do you think they'll send more ships after us?" Tsar's eyes narrowed as he thought about the next steps. "They'll regroup. We've weakened them, but they'll be back. And when they return, we'll need to be ready." The crew had done well, but Tsar knew that they had only scratched the surface of what the alien empire was capable of. The Eclipse had proven itself to be a formidable weapon, but it couldn't fight every battle alone. As the Eclipse drifted in space, Tsar turned to Khan. "We need to send a message to the galaxy, to everyone who thought humanity was gone. We're here, we're alive, and we're not backing down." Kane nodded, understanding the weight of Tsar's words. It wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity, though lost for centuries, was still a force to be reckoned with. The Eclipse was their symbol, and they would not let it fade into the past. Suddenly, the ship's communication systems came to life. A transmission flickered on the screen. Tsar's eyes widened as he recognized the source. An alien ship, heavily damaged but still functional. It was one of the surviving vessels from the enemy fleet. "Commander Tsar," a voice crackled through the transmission, its tone surprisingly calm. "We surrender. You have destroyed our fleet. You have proven your power. We offer peace." Tsar was taken aback by the sudden offer. After everything they had just endured, peace seemed like an impossible concept. But he knew that this was a turning point. The alien empire had underestimated humanity. And now, they were asking for peace. "Peace," Tsar repeated, his voice steady. "Why should we trust you after everything you've done?" The alien voice was quiet but firm. "We understand that we have made enemies of humanity, but we also know that we cannot fight you. Not anymore. We offer peace in exchange for our survival." Tsar's mind raced as he considered the offer. This was a chance, maybe the only chance, for a new beginning, for humanity to take its place in the galaxy. "Peace will come on our terms," Tsar said finally. "But make no mistake, we will not forget the lives lost in this war. Humanity is not to be trifled with." The transmission ended, leaving Tsar and his crew in a heavy silence. The battle was over, but the war for humanity's place in the galaxy was far from finished. Tsar took a deep breath, turning to Khan. "Prepare to make contact with the rest of the galaxy." The world is about to know that humanity is back. The Eclipse drifted silently in the aftermath of battle, its power flickering in the stillness of space. The alien fleet had been defeated, their strongest warships shattered, and the peace offer from the survivors still lingered in the air like an unspoken challenge. Commander Xar stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the void beyond. The galaxy was changing, and humanity's place in it was no longer uncertain. He had led the Eclipse to victory, but now he faced the difficult task of what to do with that victory. The galaxy knew now that humanity had returned, but would they be welcomed or feared? Could the Empire's leaders truly be trusted? These were the questions that weighed heavily on Xar's mind. Beside him, Lieutenant Kan worked quietly at the console, analyzing the data from the battle. "Commander, we've sent the message. We've made contact with the rest of the galaxy. They're receiving the signal now." Xar nodded but said nothing. He knew the message would be received with mixed reactions. Some would see humanity's victory as a sign of strength, others as a threat. The war had shaken the galaxy to its core, and peace, though offered, was a fragile thing. There were still many unanswered questions. "How are the survivors of the alien fleet responding?" Tar asked. "They're in shock," Kan replied, his voice tinged with disbelief. "They didn't expect us to have this kind of power. There are factions within their ranks now. Some want to retaliate, but others are looking to negotiate. We might be able to broker a lasting peace, but we need to be careful. Trust doesn't come easily after this kind of destruction." Xar turned away from the view screen, his mind racing. Peace sounded good, but it didn't feel right. Humanity had been pushed to the edge for so long. The Eclipse was a symbol, a reminder that they could survive, that they could fight back. But with peace came the risk of being forgotten again, of being lost in the shadows of other civilizations. That was something Xar could never allow. "We'll keep the pressure on them," Xar said, his voice firm. "We've earned our place in this galaxy. We won't hide. Humanity will not fade away." As the days passed, the crew of the Eclipse continued to monitor the alien response. Slowly, the galaxy began to take notice. Messages flooded in from distant star systems, some offering congratulations, others expressing caution or outright fear. There were talks of alliances, but also threats. Some alien races saw humanity's return as a sign of instability, while others believed that the galaxy was better off with humanity in its rightful place. Xar knew that the real test had only just begun. The Eclipse had proven that humanity's ingenuity and resilience could not be underestimated. But the battle for respect, for a place in the galaxy, was still ongoing. It would take time to rebuild, to gain the trust of the galaxy's many factions. But for now, they had survived. They had won. And the legacy of humanity's return would echo across the stars, a reminder to all that when humanity was pushed to the brink, they would rise again, stronger and more determined than ever before. Xar took one last look at the view screen. The stars were silent, but they were watching, and humanity was ready to take its place among them. The Eclipse had been silent for days, drifting among the wreckage of the once feared alien fleet. The vast emptiness of space felt heavy, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The battle was over, but the true consequences of their victory were still unfolding. Commander Xar stood on the bridge, gazing out into the stars. His mind was full of questions, but one thing was clear: humanity's journey was only just beginning. The messages from the galaxy continued to flood in, some from allies, others from enemies. Some races were eager to open negotiations, while others remained hostile, unwilling to accept humanity's sudden rise to power. Xar had expected this, but it didn't make the task any easier. His crew had done the impossible, but now they had to navigate the political complexities of a galaxy that had long moved on without them. "Commander," Kan's voice interrupted his thoughts. "We've received a new transmission. It's from the Galactic Council." Xar's heart skipped a beat. The Galactic Council was the most powerful organization in the galaxy, made up of representatives from various alien civilizations. If they were reaching out to humanity, it could mean either a great opportunity or a dangerous challenge. "Patch it through," Tar ordered. The screen flickered, and a face appeared. An alien representative, tall with green skin and sharp, angular features. The representative's expression was unreadable, but there was a certain weight to his presence. The message was clear. Humanity had their attention. "Commander Xar," the alien said, his voice calm but firm. "We have reviewed the events surrounding your victory. You have proven that humanity is not a race to be ignored. However, your actions have raised concerns. Some see your power as a threat, and others see it as an opportunity." Xar stood straighter, his voice steady as he responded. "We have no interest in threats or domination. We simply want a place in the galaxy, a place where humanity can thrive and contribute. But we will not be pushed aside again." The representative nodded. "Your intentions will be scrutinized, Commander. The Council is willing to offer you a seat at the table, but be warned. There are forces in the galaxy that will not tolerate your rise. There will be those who seek to challenge you, and they will do so with everything they have." Xar's jaw tightened. "We've faced worse. Humanity doesn't back down." The representative's expression softened, almost as if he understood. "Perhaps, but you must understand. Your actions have consequences. You have brought attention to yourself, and not all of it will be favorable." The transmission ended, leaving Xar standing in silence. He turned to Khan, who was watching him carefully. "They're giving us a seat at the table," Xar said quietly. "But there's still danger ahead. We've made powerful enemies, and they won't give up easily." Kane nodded. "But we've shown the galaxy what we're capable of. We're not just survivors. We're a force to be reckoned with." Xar smiled, a glimmer of pride in his eyes. "Exactly. We've earned our place, and now it's time to make sure the galaxy knows that humanity is here to stay." As the eclipse sailed through the stars, Commander Xar looked ahead, the unknown future stretching before him. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had only just begun to find its way. But no matter the challenges ahead, one thing was certain: humanity would not be forgotten. The future awaited, and humanity was ready.